guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kiosha and today we're going to talk about money. And specifically, we're going to talk about your mindset when it comes to money. This is something that I have been struggling with since I got my first job in high school, and it's something that I have struggled with all of my life. And so today I'm going to tell you guys my story and how I changed my mindset when it comes to money. So I want to start this video off kind of giving you a backstory on my relationship with money. So my relationship with money started early, like at 14. At 14, I could get a work permit and I can get a job. So I applied for this work permit and I got my first job at 14. The city assigned me working at the library, and it was my first relationship with money where I had my own money and I could make decisions with the money that I had. In the past, I always had to ask my mom for money or ask my family members for money, and in my family, money was not something that was abundant and that people could just give out willy-nilly. Yeah, they may give $5 or $10 here or there, but they're not giving you hundreds of dollars. You're not getting allowances. You're not getting money every week for what you need to do. You had to have truly an emergency or something that you really had to have in order for them to pay for it. Like, they just wasn't paying for frivolous stuff. And so at 14, getting a job and having a little bit of money was like freedom for me, and I really enjoyed it. And so I've always had this natural knack to save money and not to spend all of my money. A lot of my family members say I get it from my grandmother. She definitely was, I would say, good with her money, but she still wasn't great with her money. I don't believe that anybody in our family is truly great with money, but there are people who I do look up, like my aunt. She has a great relationship with money, and she does what she's supposed to do, and she kind of is a role model for me when it comes to money. Move forward to 17, I'm a senior in high school, and I am saving up to go to college. And so I remember working this job since 16 to 17, saving up money because I knew when I went to college and I got in college, there would be no extra money. They would not be sending me any money. Nobody had any extra money to give me. So I would have to save money to get the things that I wanted to have. And before then, I was very freeing with money. I would help others, give if I could, but there was this one incident when I was younger, right before I went to college, where I had this bank account, and with the bank account you had to have a co-signer if you're under a certain age, if you're under 18, and I think I was 16 at the time to open the bank account. And I would put my money in this bank account that I opened with this person, and when I got ready to go to college and got ready to spend that money, and this was before I knew about, checking your balances and things like that, I discovered that this person had taken all of my money. And I believe that's where my struggle and my anxiety to give money away or to hoard money, not spend money, actually came into effect. Because I remember from that point on, I trusted nobody when it came to money. I didn't let people borrow money. I didn't spend too much money. I always made sure I had a stash somewhere. And every time I had to spend money, I would get this anxiety about spending money. I would get this, especially depending if it was like hundreds of dollars. I would get like sweat, and my hands would sweat, and I would sweat. My heart would start beating so fast because now my relationship with money was very negative and was very like, you better keep it because somebody could come along and take it, or you'll have to spend it on this, or it's going to be some kind of emergency, or whatever the case may be. And that grew into my adult years. I got married really young, probably like 24, and me and my ex had money struggles as well. I was very responsible with my money. I always paid all of my bills first, and then whatever money was left over, I could do whatever I wanted to do. But even though I was that responsible, that's still not responsible because I wasn't saving. And so there was a point in our marriage where my ex did something and we didn't have enough money, and he didn't have any money and I didn't have no money. So I got to the point like, okay, Kiosha, now you're responsible, you're paying all your bills, but now he can't pay his half, but you can't afford to pay both halves. So now you need to be putting money aside. And this is where I started using like my student loans or my tax refund to put money aside in a bank account for emergencies. But the funny thing about that is everything was an emergency. It was always an emergency. So that account just stayed revolving. It was never enough money to be like a true cushion or a true emergency fund, because we kept pulling out of it, and that just added to my anxiety. It added to my fear of never having enough money to do the things I needed to do. Fast forward then a couple of years, we bought a house, like in when I had my daughter, the same year I bought a house. So the house I live in now, I've been living in for 17 years. And we bought this house, and on paper, we could afford this house. On paper, we could afford everything in the house. It was so-called in our budget, and it was so-called just perfect for us. And it really wasn't. It was perfect if we did what we were supposed to do. If both of us were putting in what we should put in. And with that being said, I was more diligent and more responsible when it came to money. He was the irresponsible one. And like I said, I already had anxiety around money, not trusting other people with money, not trusting people to do what they say. And this just tacked on and added to it because he wouldn't pay his bills. We're getting lights cut off. We're getting notices from the mortgage company that we're about to go into foreclosure. And so it was just a really a lot. And it just didn't help all the money problems that I had previously, and it just kept stacking on and stacking on. So after we decided to part ways in 2016, I really had to take a step back because I definitely could not afford this home by myself. So I had to come up with a plan. I had to come up with, okay, I don't want to really move. This is a great location. My kids have grown up here. All their friends are here. The mortgage is not really that high. I really could afford the mortgage and the things in it if I do certain stuff. And so I came up with this plan, and my plan was I had like 4 goals that year. I think it went from 2016, because it was like late 2016 when this happened, to early 2017. And my plan was to get an emergency fund, become stable with my finances, get a new job, and pay off my car. So those were the 4 things that helped me jumpstart and change my mindset when it came to money. And it all started in 2016. I'm going to give you guys my tips and tricks on what I use to change my mindset about money, and how I went from having so much anxiety, being broke, not being able to pay the bills, lights getting cut off, not having enough money, to getting a month ahead, having a pretty good emergency fund, budgeting every single month, have less anxiety about money, being able to teach my children. I have taught my son how to budget using the things that I learned from 2016 to now. And he is in so much more of a better place than I was at his age. And I am so proud of that. And now I'm going to start teaching my daughter how to budget and make sure that I set her up for success financially in the future. Okay, you guys, so the first tip I would give is to become realistic about your finances. Social media and all this online stuff has got people so misconstrued about what they can really afford. And luckily for me, I didn't grow up in an age with social media, so I didn't really get a lot of my thought process or my mindset around money from social media. But I do understand how social media can make you feel like you're lacking, or if you don't have enough money, or you should be able to afford this because they're your age and they have the same job and they do this and they do that. But by no means is social media real. People show you what they want to show you, and it makes you feel a certain way sometimes. Sometimes it makes me feel a certain way, but then I remind myself that this is not real. This is not your reality. This is somebody else's so-called reality, because we only know what we see if you don't know these people personally. And so you have to confront, because this took me a long time. I was in denial about my finances for a long time. I really had to sit down and confront myself and say, Kiosha, what are you doing? You are just spending money willy-dilly. Emergencies come up, your lights getting cut off, you don't have the money to get it cut back on, you can't hardly pay your children's things that they need that are necessities, you can't keep groceries in the house. Like, what are you doing with your money? You need to sit down and truly find out what is going on with your finances, because staying in denial and just paying stuff and doing this and doing that and hoping you don't run out of money is not the way to go, because I've been there, done that, and it's trash. Okay, do not recommend. And so the way that you would get real with your finances is writing down every single bill that you have to pay everybody you owe and how much money you owe. And when I say that will blow your mind, it will blow your mind, because a lot of people keep that in the back. They know about it, but they keep it in the back of their mind. They don't keep it in the forefront where you can see it every day and say, oh my God, I owe $20,000 on my car note's $400. I really only make $1,200 a month, and I'm spending out $2,000 a month. Like, so I'm like really $800 short, and so I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you ever heard that phrase before. And a lot of people just don't get real with your finances. So get real with your finances. Write down, I would suggest write down every single bill that you pay every single month. I write down everybody you owe and how much you owe them, including individuals, and look at how much money you're bringing in and look at how much money is going out, and see if you're still in the green when everything is said and done. If you're not in the green when everything is said and done, you really need to sit down and think about getting your budget together. So my next tip is to find a financial plan that works to you. I'm gonna call it a financial plan because everybody just seems to freak out when you talk about budget. But a budget, that's all a budget is. A budget is a financial plan. It's a roadmap of how you're going to deal with money that comes into your household and how you spend that money out or distribute it to different places, peoples, and things. And so getting a budget or a financial plan is the first step in really becoming stable with your finances. And there are so many options out there when it comes to picking a financial plan. There's a zero-based budget, there's a cash envelope system, there's the 5-20-30, there's You Need a Budget program, and just a plethora. And so the two that I love the most that I've kind of combined together is the zero-based budget by Dave Ramsey and the cash envelope system. Sometimes when you choose a financial plan to copy from somebody or be inspired from somebody else, you have to tweak it to your life. I do believe that cash envelope will fit in any type of budget that you ever choose, using a cash budget when you first start budgeting, because your relationship with money is so disconnected from actual physical money because we're so used to swiping that you can't really see or keep up with what you're doing. And I have gotten to a point where I don't necessarily use cash envelopes anymore, but I think I'm about to go back to cash envelopes because I find myself swiping and not paying attention and getting back into old habits, and so I need to go back. But you definitely need to find you a financial plan that will work for you. So I want to talk a little bit about the mindset of money specifically. I know I've talked about, my past and getting a financial plan, but let's talk about like real mindset when it comes to money. And there's a thing called philosophy of money that I kind of studied when I first started getting my budget together. There's three that comes into mind that really sticks with me. It's a saver versus a spender, safety versus status, strict versus free spirited. So let's talk about saver versus spender. So we have, of course, everybody knows somebody's a saver. They're always saving their money. They're always being frugal. And then you have that spender who's like, I'm going to live my life to the fullest and I'm going to spend money because you only get it once and it's always abundant and I got a job and it'll always come to me and I don't have an issue with spending money. I am a little bit of hybrid of both now, but I definitely in the beginning was a saver and I did not want to spend any money, not one red cent. Now, my children are a night and day of me. My son is more like me. He's a saver. He's frugal. We think about before we spend money. We both have anxiety before we spend money, but we will spend it on things that we need to, and we will treat ourselves every now and then. Now, my daughter, she's more like her father. They spend money. They think about the consequences later. She'll spend, I'll give her $20 a day and she'll spend all her money today. And then tomorrow she doesn't have any money and wants to go to the store and be like, Mom, can I go to the store? Can you buy? No, I just gave you $20 yesterday. You spent all the $20. You didn't save any. So there's this natural thing, either a saver or a spender, in my opinion, because I never taught my daughter just to spend money. I never taught her about money. It's just something she naturally does, is just spend money. And saving money is something my son has always naturally done. And so that's one type of philosophy. And then the other one I was talking about was the safety versus status. So I'm definitely a safety person. So a safety person is, okay, I'm gonna spend money within my means and I don't care how my status looks to others. So for instance, me, I live in a manufactured home on 3 acres. A lot of people talk about me because they're like, you stay in a mobile home? You stay in a mobile home? Like, don't you be scared? That's not a real house. This is my safety. I know I can afford this home, and I actually truly love where I live. But status is where people are buying houses beyond their means. I can't afford a $200,000-$300,000 house in this economy today. I cannot afford to move. So I don't care what you think my status is because I live in a manufactured home. But for some people, that's important. They want where they live, what they drive to represent what they have. And that's fine and that's dandy, because if you can do that, you can do that. But I choose not to do that. I choose to save and be frugal, live where I live, drive what I drive, and not care about the opinion of others. And this is not to put anybody down or say that it's wrong to care of the opinions of others, because some people truly do care and thrive off the opinions of others. I'm just not one of them people. And so I don't look for validation from others by the things that I have in order to know my worth or to relay my status. My status is what my status is, whether you can see it or not. Strict versus free spirit. So I was definitely an in-between of this before I started budgeting, and now I'm more of a free spirit. I'm not as strict anymore. But when I first started budgeting in 2016, I was strict. I literally will only spend within the means of my budget on that piece of paper. And if it went outside of that, or if it went over it, or anything like that, I would tell people, no, I can't go. I don't have any more money. I don't have this. I don't have that. I can't do that. I can't do this. And I was super, super strict. And the reason why is because I had goals that I wanted to achieve. And in order to achieve the goals, I had to be as strict as possible. But I knew that my strictness would soon be in my favor because I would meet my goals a lot sooner. And I had a deadline to meet specific goals. And so I had to, be strict as possible. And when the pandemic hit and everybody was working from home and I was spending less money, that's when I became a little bit more free spirit and looser with my money, which was not a good thing, because I have kind of backtracked on my budgeting and my finances and kind of my mindset with money since then. And so now I'm going to have to get back on more of the stricter side. So let me know if you guys want to see my process of getting back stricter with my budget and getting back on track. I'm not too far off track, but I could be better. If you guys want to comment below, I would really be interested if you guys consider yourselves a saver versus a spender, strict versus a free spirit, or if you safety over status. I would really, really love to know what categories do you fall when it comes to the philosophy of money. To continue on about mindset, let's talk about shifting your mindset. That is something that takes a lot of willpower, and I know this because my mom reminds me all the time about where I was and how far I have come. Now, to tell you the truth, my fear around money has never gone away. It's just a little dormant now, but I still have fear and anxiety about spending money. But I have to remind myself that I have money and I have money in abundance, and paying my bills and things like that most likely will never become a problem. And why I know that is because of certain things that happened in the past that my mom reminds me about all the time. So when I first started budgeting, I had these sinking funds. And if you don't know what sinking funds are, they're basically little mini savings accounts for certain things that you know are going to happen in your life. So for instance, I own a home, so I had a home maintenance fund, and I would put money in it every single month until I got to a certain amount of money. And I had this one for home maintenance. Well, there came a time when my water heater busted in my house, and it just got water everywhere, and I had to put in an insurance claim, and I had to have the adjuster person come out and say, yes, this is an insurance claim, yes, we'll pay for your claim, get a quote, submit it, blah blah blah, and we'll look into replacing your floors or blah, whatever we need to do. So when the time came, I was so upset. And I was like, I'm just getting my finances together, and now this tragedy happens. They were like, literally, my mom was sending me videos at work of them ripping up the floors in my home, getting these big fans to dry the floors because the water heater had been leaking for a while, but because I had laminate and carpet, we didn't know it was leaking. I happened to see this one little teeny spot one day, and I would dry it up and it would come back, and I was like, okay, maybe there's a leak somewhere, or maybe I thought it was leaking from the roof. So I'm like, they need to come out and figure out where this leak is coming from, and come to find out when they came out, the water heater had been leaking slowly under, and you couldn't see it or feel it because it was under the laminate and under the carpet. And so when they pulled it up, all the floor was wet and they had to do these big fans and all this stuff. And so she's sending me this stuff at work, and I'm like boo-hoo crying, and I get home and my house is a mess and everything's tore up. And she literally sits me down and tells me, Kiosha, first of all, you have been complaining that you wanted to change the floors throughout your house for years. And now the insurance company is going to pay for you to get your floors redone. You don't have to do it yourself. Second, you have the money in your savings account. You've been saving for emergencies like this. Outside of using your emergency fund, you saved a home maintenance fund so that you can use this money instead of your emergency money when something comes up with your home. You have the money. Now you're getting new floors. What are you crying and whining about? And when I say, she opened my eyes so wide that day, and I was like, why am I tripping? You have $5,000 in your home maintenance fund. Your insurance company is going to pay for you to get all new floors in your living room, your kitchen, your hallway, your first bathroom, and your laundry room, all for $1,300. And you have $5,000 in your home maintenance fund, and you're about to get all brand new floors, and you don't have to do it yourself. Like, this is the things that I didn't see because of my fear of money, the fear of not having enough and going back to them times where my lights were getting cut off, or we're getting foreclosure notices, or just, you know, people taking advantage of me or things like that when it comes to money. And so that really helped me. So sometimes it takes that aha moment or that realization where somebody's telling you or pointing out things to you, and it really makes you shift your mindset and be like, what am I really scared of? What am I really fearful of? Like, what is the worst can happen? And so sometimes shifting your mindset is looking at the good. And that to me was like the worst day ever. She helped me shift my mindset about my fear around not having enough money. So sometimes when things go wrong, when things happen, or you have to miss out on stuff, think about where you really came from. Think about the positive. If you think positively about money instead of negatively about money, it will reduce a lot of your anxiety. It will reduce a lot of your worry. And I've had to learn to do that. I've had to learn to say, I'm able to do of it. I don't have to scramble. I don't have to borrow, beg, plead to get things that I need fixed, done in case of an emergency, because I have prepared for this using my financial plan and my budgeting skills and my cash envelope, anything else that I choose to use to get my finances in order. So think about that next time something happens. Think about all the positive things that could come out of that situation. So the last tip I'm going to leave you with is consistency. Everybody knows anything you want to achieve in life, anything that requires you to do something in order to get somewhere or to get to your end result, you have to be consistent to get there. If you're not consistent, you're not going to get anything, anywhere, anytime. Doesn't matter what it is. I have been consistent with my budget for 7 years. For 7 years, every single paycheck I budget, every expense I put in my program or spreadsheet, every single month I review what is going on with my budget, where I spent my money, whether I overspent, underspent, whatever the case may be. I look at it in my face, the reality, as I told you guys before, of what I'm doing every single month. So I cannot sit here and say to myself, I don't know what happened to my money. Yes, you do. You know what happened to it because you wrote it down. You spent all your money on this or you spent all your money on that. And so being consistent and doing that every single month for the last 7 years has made me realize where I lack sometimes, where I'm strong at, but also keeps me from going too far off the rails where I can't correct myself or my budget can't be corrected. Alright, you guys, so that is my story, and those are my tips about how to change your mindset when it comes to money. And I hope that you guys take as much positivity away from this video as possible. I didn't want you to feel even worse or have more anxiety about your money issues if you don't have a financial plan. This is just something to get you started and get you along your way. I will be making more financial videos in the future, so please subscribe if you like these types of videos. Let me know down below if this video helped you out any, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.